Hello, my name is Alexander Miko McIver. I'm a programmer, modeler, and 3D character artist, and I'm sharing this video with you today to demonstrate an add-on I've made for Blender 2.83, which I've named Easy Controls. Easy Controls is a rigging assistant designed to help automate and assist in the most mundane and repetitive aspects to rigging in Blender, whilst also providing a flexible solution to adding IKFK snapping to your custom rigs, and my aim in this video is to show you how. If you're familiar with rigging, you know that you need a bone structure to deform and pose your model for animation. However, it is a common practice to keep your rig simple and separate your bone structure into two chains, one for deformation and one for control, and then you would constrain the deformation chain to copy the transformations of the control chain. With easy controls, this can be done in two ways. With a few clicks of a button, you can create and automatically fill in the constraints of a control chain, or you can constrain two existing chains to one another based on the order of selecting the bones. To create a custom control chain, simply select your armature and go to Edit mode, and open the Create Controls tab. From there, you would need to choose whether you want to replace a part of the existing name, add a prefix to the beginning of the new name, or a suffix at the end of it. I've added it as a reminder here, but I urge you to try and make sure your existing bones do not end with a number, otherwise you will have to adjust the names manually. After you've chosen your name, you will need to select your armature as your target, and then you would need to choose the constraint you would need to connect the deformation chain to the control chain. In this case, I've chosen copy transforms from world space to world space with an influence of 1. From there, select all your bones by clicking A and execute. Easy Controls will make your control chain and move it to the next available layer. And if you were to go to pose mode, you'll find that your original chain has been constrained to the new chain. In the event that you do not need to create a control chain, you do have the option of constraining two existing chains to one another if you go down to the Constrain Existing Chains tab. To do this, click on your armature and go into Edit mode. You will then need to choose your deformation chain, also known as the constraint owner chain, in the order of child to parent, and then your control chain, known as the target bone chain, in the exact same order. Otherwise, any constraints made will be mismatched. From there, declare your armature as the target and fill in the necessary details for the constraint you plan to make. In this case, I'll be making a rotation constraint from local space to local space with an influence of 1. Once happy with the settings, click Add Constraints, and Easy Controls will fill in the necessary details and take you into pose mode, where if you were to move your control chain, thanks to the constraint added, the deformation chain will follow. Now that we have our control chain, allow me to direct your attention to another feature of Easy Controls, known as the single rotation chain. The single rotation chain is a feature useful for fingers, tails, capes, and tentacles that allows us to give our rotation chain a natural curl. To do this, go to Edit mode and select our bones from the order of child to parent and click Enter. Once you've done this, select the axes to curl along and choose whether you need to replace, add onto, or offset from the original rotation. In this instance, I'll be choosing an offset from local space to local space with an influence of 1. Once ready, click Create Single Rotation Chain. Once again, Easy Control will do the work for you and bring you back to pose mode, where if you were to rotate the parent, the child bones would copy the rotation to give a curl effect, which may be useful depending on your needs. In addition, if ever you feel you have made a mistake in your operations, you do have the option of rolling back an execution, which will prove more convenient and more efficient then clicking Ctrl Z. Now that we have our control chain, allow me to show you the next feature of Easy Controls to aid you on your journey, the custom control shapes. Using Easy Controls, it is possible to generate and set custom control shapes to each individual bone of your armature. There are 27 inbuilt shapes to choose from, but you are free to use your own. To use a feature, simply select a shape, set a scale, and click Generate Custom Bone Shape. From here, select your shape, then holding Shift, select your armature and go into pose mode. In pose mode, select your intended bone and click Snap Selected Shape to Bone. This will align our shape in the center of the bone, where from here, if you click Set an Align Bone Shape, the shape will be binded to the armature. In the event that you need to change the scale, position, or rotation of the shape, simply go back into object mode and select your control shape. From here, go to edit mode, and any changes in positioning, scale, or rotation will be reflected in your armature once you return to object mode. Please note that once a shape has been assigned to a bone, its name will be changed accordingly. And if you need to use the same shape for another bone, you will have to duplicate it. Please note that if you have changed the shape in edit mode, you will first have to select the shape and go to object and change the origin back to geometry. And from there, you may repeat the process all over again. In any rig, there's a controlling bone that all unparotid bones should be under. In some cases, you may choose to use the first bone, or your hips and pelvis bone, as the controlling bone. However, in other cases, you would need a root bone to connect all loose bones under so that all other bones could be moved according to the root bone's position. With Easy Controls, in the Create Controls tab, there's a button that does this for you manually called the Add Root Bone. By clicking Add Root Bone, Easy Controls generates a root bone at your world position, at your world origin, and will be the parent for all unparented bones. We will need a root bone for this next step. First, go to Pose Mode and go to the Bones Properties tab. From there, click on your root bone and scroll down to Custom Properties. Click Add and edit the property so that you can name it FKIK with a default value of 0. Once this is done, right-click on the value and click Copy Data Path. Now that you've done this, go back into Edit mode and go back to your original deformation chain. First, select all the bones with A and choose the naming convention that you need. In this case, I will be replacing Control with Control IK. Make sure that Deform and Copy constraints from the original are unchecked. Then use a Copy Transformations constraint from world space to world space. However, in this instance, we will not be using an influence, but we will be checking Set Driver to use Easy Controls to set a driver that changes the value of the influence based on our property. Make sure that your armature is selected as your prop, and then under Path, click Ctrl V to paste your data path. Once this is done, click Execute. From here, go back into Edit mode and go back to your original chain. Once again, click A and change the name from Control IK to Control FK. We will not be changing any other settings other than checking invert driver and clicking execute. For the sake of demonstration, I've made a separate chain to help give a clearer picture of our next step. To the left, we have our FK chain, and to the right, we have our IK chain. And in the center, we have our control chain and our root bone. The FK chain we can leave as is. However, our IK chain will need some work done. First, select the third bone, which we will call the IK hand, and click Alt-P and clear parent. From here, select the center of the forearm bone and the arm bone, and click E to extrude another bone. If you click Y, you can make sure that it's extruded from the Y axis. Once extruded at the length you need, click on the bone and again click Alt-P and clear parent. But from here, click on the bone again and move it along the Y axis. From here, first name this bone IK elbow. And move on to pose mode. From here, select your IK hand, hold shift and select your forearm bone and hold down control and shift and click C. From here, choose inverse kinematics. Select your forearm bone and in the bone constraint properties, make sure that your chain length is at a length of 2. From here, select your elbow bone, then select the arm bone, and again hold down Shift and Control, then click C, and choose Inverse Kinematics, this time with a chain length of 1. From here, you now have an IK setup, and you have an FK setup, which if you go into the item and click on your root bone, under properties, when you change the value of the slider, your control bone will follow either the FK chain or the IK chain. This is known as FK-IK blending. For those who don't know, FK, or forward kinematics, is a system where you manually change the joint angles of the parent and child bones to achieve a certain pose. This is useful for arc movement, such as waving, or tweaking each bone to get your pose just right. IK, or inverse kinematics, is a system where joint angles are calculated automatically based on the position of the end effector, also known as our IK target. This is a system useful for situations where a bone has to stay in place, such as when animating pushing, pulling, or holding onto a weapon. Each has their own advantages and use, but when using IKFK blending, your control chain will change its orientation to match either one or the other. This leaves you with the unfortunate task of manually matching each bone when you switch between one or the other. This is where a system known as FK-IK Snapping comes in. FK-IK Snapping is a system where the FK system's orientation is matched to the IK system's, or vice versa, so you can switch between either one or the other seamlessly. To set up FK-IK Snapping using easy controls, first let me switch over to our original chain. As you see, I have added control shapes to better distinguish between each system, where circles denote the bones of the FK system, whilst the cube and diamond reflect the IK system. Now in easy controls, go to the last tab called IKFK Snapping and click Add. From here, make sure to choose your armature as your target, and from here, choose your IK chain from the base to the child to the IK target, and click Enter. Once you've done this, make sure to select the FK chain in the exact same order. From here, if you have a pole vector, click on Choose IK Pole and click on in our case, our IK elbow. And then choose your IK target. With this, you can now change from your FK to your IK and from your IK to your FK. Now this is a rare issue, which mainly only arises depending on the length of your IK chain, where when snapping your IK to your FK, the pole vector does not get snapped to a spot that matches your FK position correctly. In this instance, first, let me snap the IK to the FK. Now, let me go into object mode, and let me generate a wireframe to make my point. To better explain what's going on, let us call this cube our margin of error. In rare instances, mainly if you have a chain length above 2 or 3, such as with a tail, there are times where, though our IK pole snaps to a decent position, there is still a huge margin of error that needs to be calculated and accounted for. In such instances, what you would need to do is to repeatedly click on IK to FK, and as you do, our margin of error will shrink until you finally get the correct match. Let's say you've used easy controls to make your rig. You got your finger curling, maybe you used it to make a finger spread system. You got your IKFK system set up, along with snapping. At the end of the day, there is one last piece of the puzzle before I can send you on your way. And that is setting up an IK system for your leg that is compatible with easy controls. And as a bonus for making it this far, I'm also going to show you how to set up an IK foot roll system that is compatible. First, select your armature, and in Object Properties, under Viewport Display, make sure to check in front so that our armature shows through your mesh. From there, go into Edit mode, and in your Object Data Properties, make sure to isolate your IK systems. This is to avoid any confusion later on. From here, first, extract a knee bone from your knee. Select it and click Alt-P, Clear Parent. Remember to name it accordingly. And make sure that Deform is unchecked. From here, extrude 2 bones from your foot IK bone along the y-axis and call them IK heel and IK anchor. In addition, make sure to keep your orientation correct by going into Item and clearing your role. From here, select your foot IK bone and click Shift-D to duplicate it, and right-click to make sure it stays in the same position. From here, go to Armature and click Switch Direction and rename the bone IK Mech.L, MCH for mechanism. In addition, make sure that your role is correct. From here, we first need to duplicate our IK heel bone and bring it to the base of the back of the foot. This bone we shall name our IK heel raise, and we will duplicate it twice, one to the outer edge of your foot and one to the inner side of your foot, and we'll name them your IK inner bank and your IK outer bank. From here, our last step is to duplicate our anchor bone, unparent it with Alt-P, and position it along your entire foot. This bone shall be named your IK foot base. Once all your bones have been created, first select all your IK bones with A, then click Shift and W to toggle your bone options. We need to do this to ensure that all our deform options are disabled. From here, let's sort out the parenting of each bone. First, select your IK anchor bone, then holding Shift, select your foot mechanism and click Ctrl-P, keep offset. From here, select your foot mechanism and your toe mechanism, and then select your IK heel raise and click Ctrl-P, keep offset. From here, select your heel raise and then parent it to the inner bank with a keep offset. And then select your inner bank and your outer bank and parent them with Ctrl-P, keep offset. Once you've set this up, make sure to click on your IK heel bone and your IK outer bank, then select your foot base and click Ctrl-P, keep offset. With this, we're ready to go into pose mode. Now in pose mode, select your IK heel, then select your IK anchor, hold down Shift and Control and click C. From here, choose a copy rotation. Select your IK anchor bone and go into your bone constraints properties. We are going to turn off the Y and Z options to make sure that our copy rotation is only on the x-axis, and we are going to change our space from local space to local space. From here, add an extra bone constraint called the limit rotation. In this instance, change it from world space to local space. Check for transform and make sure that we are limiting our x rotations from 0 to 180. Having done that, select your inner bank, your IK heel raise, and your outer bank, then select your anchor bone, go into pose, and click copy constraints to selected bones. This will copy our constraints to the bones, where if you select your inner bank, we want to change this from copying the X rotation to the Y rotation and changing the limit rotation from X to the Y with a minimum of anywhere between -30 to 45 degrees as a minimum to a maximum of 0. And your outer bank along the Y-axis from 0 to 30. Lastly, select your IK heel raise and make sure that the limit rotation for your X-axis is from -180 to 0. We're ready to make our IK system. First, go back into edit mode. Select your foot bone and click Alt-P to clear parent. And from here, select your IK foot base and parent it to your IK foot roll by clicking Control-P, keep offset. From here, go into pose mode, select your IK foot bone, then select your shin bone and hold down Shift and Control and click C. From here, choose an inverse kinematics with a chain length of 2. Then select your knee bone and your thigh bone, hold down Shift and Control and click C, inverse kinematics with a chain length of 1. We're ready. Now that we've set everything up, there's one last step that needs to be done, and that is bringing easy controls into the equation. First, go into your IKFK Snapping and click Add. From here, make sure that your armature is selected as your target and choose your IK bones from the base, which would be our thigh, to the shin to our IK target, which would be our foot. Then click Enter. Next, go to your FK bones and select everything in the exact same order. Your thigh, your shin FK, and your foot FK. Go back to your IK setup and under IK pole target, choose your IK pole and choose your knee bone. And again, choose your IK target, which would be our IK foot bone. From here, check an IK foot roll setup to choose the last options. First, choose IK foot base controller and choose our IK foot base bone. From here, choose your IK anchor bone. And lastly, choose your root bone. You've now set up an IKFK system for your legs that is compatible with easy controls. As is, if you needed to switch from your IK system to your FK system, you simply need to click IK to FK, because at present, your IK foot bone is in charge of your IK system. However, when you need to use your foot roll mechanism, first, click on Base as Parent to make sure that your foot bone is now parented to your anchor bone to give power to your foot base bone, which is now parented to your root bone. From here, simply rotate your IK heel bone along the X-axis for a heel system, or on the Y-axis for our banking systems. And once you're done, simply select Target as Parent once again to give power back to your foot bone. Just realizing I made a mistake, but not a problem. First, let's rename you to leg L. Then for you, you'll be our arm. Choose IK bone chain. 1, 2, 3. IK target, you. IK pole, you. And then our FK chain. 1, 2, 3. Done. Oh, wait. And our armature. Okay. Now we have our arm setup back. Okay, to FK. We can move our FK to our IK. And with that, this concludes my demonstration of my Easy Controls add-on. I hope it is as much of a game changer for you as it has been for me. It's available online. Links will be provided in the description. I've worked hard on this add-on, so I hope you like it, and I hope you use it. You can find me on ArtStation. Please do let me know what you think of my work. And on that note, I end this video with thank you and good luck.